word is Dad.
I think Dad has made some excellent progress today.
Your dad, he's a fun guy, right?
Daddy's gone mad, hasn't he?
And I love him so much, and I think he's the greatest dad in the world.
Welcome back to Working on the Dad Pod. I'm Alex. He's Ethan. And tonight we are talking expectations versus reality. You know, I meant for this topic to be a little bit more of a reflective episode when I proposed it to Ethan, where there are things that we all think when we're going to be dads. And maybe there's variations, but things that we think of what fatherhood is going to be like. And then the reality where I am better part of 7 years into it. Ethan, over 6 years into it. And how has that reality changed as we became dads and as things have changed? Before that, we'll do story time. After that, we'll work on something, probably the dad bod. We know it's been a couple of weeks, so we'll catch you up with all of that. But before we do that, please, right now, wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribing. And then, Ethan's not going to tell his story time until you text it to a friend. I'm kidding, but seriously, share it with a friend. That's the best way to help this podcast grow. If you know somebody that would just love to hear a couple of guys ramble and occasionally find themselves arriving at a good point, we're that podcast. So we'd love for you to give us a listen consistently and love to have your friends join us. With that, Ethan, tell everybody how you're doing. If you got a story time, or I'm happy to go first.
Yeah, no, I can get into it. Hey everybody. Good to see you after a couple of weeks. I know we kind of ended the last episode on, you know, a sad note. We've gotten a little bit more information about all of that since, and you know, hopefully we'll learn more soon. Yeah. That said, my story is just kind of I just want to, you know, it bleeds into the episode because I think overall I had a bad dad couple of days, possibly the whole week. And it also had to do with just work kind of sucking. And I found myself quick to yell the last couple of days. You know, yesterday was one of the days. So usually on Wednesdays, I have to be a little more on top of things when leaving work because I am responsible for picking up our younger daughter because she does not have gymnastics. And, you know, you can't pick her up after 6 because that's when school closes, right? So I get there. My goal is to make dinner before my wife and the older one come back from gymnastics, but also, you know, I operate a notary business, usually from 6 to 7 p.m. In the evenings, since I can't do it, since I rarely ever work from home anymore. And, you know, so interspersed between working and cooking, all I had to do was chop up some chicken and make a really 3-step easy ranch sauce. It actually tasted really good. 1 whole egg, some ranch dressing, a little bit of vegetable oil, have everything marinate in it, and then cook it all. Then, you know, season to liking. But overall, ranch chicken, pretty good. And it started with, I dropped the first egg. So wasted an egg. Then when my older daughter was home, because I was a little backed up, I was calling her into the kitchen because I was just trying to finish cooking and I wanted her to bring some of the regularly requested seasonings to the table. She came into the kitchen, immediately turned around, and like ran out of the kitchen, didn't say anything why. And I end up spilling one of the seasonings. So we lost half of it, which was just like frustrating. So then I started yelling and screaming and saying, like, when I call you into the kitchen, you come into the kitchen, and like, if you know, all that stuff. Turns out she got really excited because her cousin FaceTimed her. So I end up yelling at her in front of my niece, which like I don't feel good about. And then the then of course I'm trying to make a can of peas, and the can opener like made it 99% of the way there, and I end up cutting my finger, and I'm just really mad and like screaming fucking goddamn it a lot of the time. And it just that was last night bleeding into, I got really mad at one of my employees today. She actually wasn't there, but like created some big problems, and that pissed me off. And then it kind of bled into just a short fuse tonight. But after shower tonight, I do the normal bedtime routine with the younger one. And even though she likes when her mom finally puts her to bed, tonight she was like really loving. So we had a little bit of a hug and a kiss fest, which was nice. Then I go into the older one's room like I normally do. I ran out of my Duolingo energy, so she was a little bummed about that. But she and I just ended up chatting for about 20 minutes. I kind of let her drive the conversation, and we just giggled. We had a powwow. It was just like a really, really nice way to end the night, where I just decided that I wanted to have a conversation with a 6-year-old about 6-year-old things, and not necessarily talk to her like she's a little older, which I tend to do. But it was just a nice way to end a rough 48-hour stretch. And she actually said, when I told her I finally had to, leave her room, she was just like, can we just please keep talking? And I said, why don't we try to talk more like this most nights? And I hope we do. And I don't know. I know you have had these like really nice powwows with your oldest daughter every now and then. I know a lot of it comes from, the positive aftermath of sometimes like a discipline thing, but it was just kind of like, it was nice to just let her drive, and like going from pizza to movies to last names and age and just things like that. And funny how we got from point A to point Z. So a little bit of a rambly story, but
no, but I
nonetheless.
I enjoy those because they hit home for me, right? Like, most of those kind of my daughter driving conversations, they rarely happen. Not never, but they rarely happen from just a like, how was your day?
Mm-hmm.
They rarely start in a place where we're talking. It's heightened emotions. And I think that happens for a lot of people that, especially for kids at this young age, they're feeling a lot of feelings. They're feeling a lot of feelings towards you. And they, but they can't reconcile all the things that have happened to them during the day with what they're feeling in the moment until they just sort of let it all out. And it's like, hey, where's this coming from? And you can guide that conversation with them driving it. And you're just kind of the bumpers on the bowling alley. Right. And so I think that can be, it is really positive. Right.
Yeah.
And so, but it's tough because I know with my kids, and this will bleed into my story time. Right now, my kids aren't home. My wife isn't home. They went up to Massachusetts to visit my in-laws for a little like summer vacation. My wife is working from there, and we had talked extensively about it, and I was not comfortable working from there that long. I think I've mentioned, at least to you, maybe to the masses, there's a smaller house and there's not a ton of workspace. And my wife, I would be more of a grumpy butt about it if they're up there for 3.5 weeks. If I was up there for 3.5 weeks and felt like every single day I wasn't able to get what I needed to do done, or that my meetings were interrupted or whatever, I would be a jerk, and it would bleed over into my evening life, my morning life. And I would be frustrated. And so I made the decision to stay behind, and that means I've been FaceTiming with my kids a lot during the time. And like on the days where nothing's going on, it's kind of hard to like get stuff out of them of like how they're
Mhm.
feeling, right? They
Yeah.
might share the occasional really big win, but the little things that add up, they're not sharing. It has to be like, oh, somebody was really mean to me today, or this really bad
Mhm.
thing happened. It has to be the kid version of severe, right? To bring it up. And so yeah, I mean, but that's sort of where I am with all of my stuff, because right now I'm kind of in remote dad mode, right? For everybody listening out there, my wife not taking this vacation without me. I'm not mincing words about why, right?
Mhm.
This
Sure.
isn't something nefarious, but I feel a little bit like how I imagine my dad felt when I was growing up,
Mhm.
having long periods of time without seeing your kid. And, I miss him terribly. I appreciate my freedom. I love some of the things that, I'm able to just sort of sit on the couch at 7:30, watch some World Cup and drink a beer and not have to
That's
worry
tight.
about the Alexa automations telling me it's bedtime.
Yeah.
I get to go to bed, wake up on my own schedule. And I've been doing things like I've sent you a bunch of those like stealth health life recipes. I spent the
Mhm.
first few days just batch cooking a bunch of stuff, and I've got my freezer stocked with food. And so every morning I'm just heating up a breakfast burrito, and lunch is just
Mhm.
heating up something healthy, right? To keep me on track so I'm not like ordering out or,
Yeah.
having to think about it. But I got a nice variety of meals. And, it's just like life is kind of easy, but life is also a little bit like mundane. It's
Mhm.
a lot of working and working out and then trying to do some self-care, but also trying to do things around the house, right? I've got not extensive, but not insignificant sort of list of things either I want to accomplish or my wife wants me to accomplish while I'm away. And so it's been interesting. It's like, the first few days felt like absolute freedom, right? I went
Mhm.
to the movies on
What'd you
Friday,
see?
saw Supergirl,
How was it?
and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I think a lot of the comments of people not liking it are because it is a female superhero who is in no way sexualized.
Hmm.
So I
Interesting.
think they are rooted in different expectations
Well,
for what a female superhero should be versus a male superhero. But
so,
I thought it was
so,
pretty good.
just a quick aside, like, I there was a big joke about like a bunch of years ago after like the Marvel CEO made a comment about like a very sexist comment, but the Supergirl show
Yeah,
wasn't good. Like it was like really not good. And
yeah.
so I must say my expectations for it weren't high. But not because of like whether I thought she'd be sexualized or not, but more just like DC is just not very good at this anymore, or
Yeah, and I
wasn't
mean,
for a while.
I saw the new Superman movie, and I'm not gonna put it up. I've watched all of the MCU movies. If I
Mhm.
had to rank it, it would. There's some duds in their
Sure.
in their catalog for sure. This would
Yeah.
be middle of the pack. This isn't
Okay.
gonna
All
be
right.
with
Good to know.
Captain America: The Winter Soldier
Yeah.
or Infinity
'Cause-
War or some of these just like legitimately good like
mm,
really good
right.
movies. And I wouldn't even say it's as good as the Superman movie that I saw last summer.
Which I still
Um,
haven't seen.
but
I
I
know it's
thought
on
that one
HBO
was
though.
I thought that one was really well done. This one was good. I think that the misses were not the portrayals
Yeah.
of Supergirl. It was a lot of just sort of other
Right.
choices that they made within it. But anyway, that's a total
Gotcha.
aside. But that's
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's
No,
kind of the
good to
end of
know.
my story time of anyway of just, it's been a weird couple of weeks of
Hmm.
a feeling I haven't felt of bachelorhood, of just like
Sure.
fully living on my own ever. As you
Yeah.
know, we graduated college. I moved in with the woman who would become my wife,
Sure.
right? Like immediately. I worked a summer job as a camp counselor, and then I moved to New York with my wife, and we've been cohabitating ever since, and this is the longest. This is the second time,
Mm-hmm.
and the first time since we've had kids that we've been apart this long. Last time
Yeah.
she was literally across an ocean for a few months. So
Why I vaguely remember that.
she went
What?
over to Morocco in 2016, and I followed her shortly thereafter because I felt like it was important to stay stateside to vote in that presidential election.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Good
Anyway.
on you. Not on the
Yeah.
rest of everybody else. But yeah, so what was I? Yeah, so I want to kind of just go first because I've really only got one. Like I think my expectations of the physical acts of fatherhood were in fact in line. Like from diapers to carrying to feeding to all of the stuff that like you must do as a father.
Yeah.
Where I failed, and as I put in my tagline, unexpecting the expected, was I thought I would handle the emotional side and the emotional side of fatherhood a little better in terms of my story today by like losing my shit or
Yeah.
being able to just like no shade to my father, but like thought I'd be better at this lie that of gentle parenting that we're all supposed to believe exists, and which is a throwback to our hot takes. But I thought I would be better at keeping my cool, and I was for a while, but I'm starting to realize it's because when my eldest was 4 months old, the pandemic hit, and my wife and I like unspokenly for the first year plus, possibly 18 months of the pandemic, I don't think we had like a real fight because we were both just like keenly aware of the fact that we were just both stuck in a situation that we were not prepared for with a baby, and kind of we only had each other.
Yeah.
We were left out of certain quarantine bubbles, and like we really didn't have any outlets, and like it wasn't discussed. We didn't have like a whole conversation about like being on the same team, but like we were just so on top of each other as like safety nets that nobody lost their shit. But then you introduce outside factors. You introduce a second kid. I then end up going back into the office, and like all of this comes together, and it's like I understand why my parents like yelled at me, because it is hard to bottle up one's emotions even if you are known as a person, and like not that I'm not a superhero, I'm no Supergirl, but like people have always said about me, Ethan, like you're so positive. Ethan, you're like you say hi to the people who live in your apartment building in the elevator. Like I've never done that. Just like the kind of thing where I am just like an extroverted, not even good natured, but I'm company trained. And I thought that I was immune to the trials and tribulations of emotional parenting. And so that's really like, because when you suggested this idea, I really thought about it, and I couldn't think of any specifics other than just like generally
Yeah.
the physical side of parenting made sense to me, and like I nailed that. Expectations wise, the stuff that's hard that I thought would be hard was hard. The stuff that I thought would be easy is easy. Emotionally,
Yeah.
I just got kicked in the dick, man. So
Yeah. I mean, I feel that. And I think I've got quite a few examples of my own that sort of fall into that general umbrella, right? I think one of the things that I sort of thought, is that like mentally, I was prepared for a lot of things physically, I was prepared for a lot of the same things you talked about. Okay, I'm gonna have to carry, I'm gonna have to feed, I'm gonna have to watch. But I think, one thing I quickly understood is I don't think I was ever the kind of person that was like, oh, this kid will just fit perfectly into our existing life and we'll just bring the kid where we go. But I definitely thought, COVID aside, that our kids would just neatly sort of fit into our life and our interests.
Mm-hmm.
And very wrong. Big swing and a miss
Same.
there.
Big
Right?
same.
Like, we are revolving our decisions, our choices around what will make the kids happy, or at least not make them complain, or at least have something to do. We're choosing restaurants based on their preferences or their ability to do something. We're choosing activities and what we do to make sure that they will have some level of stimulation so that we don't, is there a play space? Is there something for them to do so that we're not having to like sit there and like entertain them with table games, right?
Mhm.
Because they'll want to play the same things over and over. And so I think that was one of my big things. And then that also, and then I think sort of in that vein, I was like, mentally, I'm prepared to like have arguments with my kids and have my kids, like disagree with things or fight on things. And I was prepared for like bedtime, for brushing teeth, for eating your vegetables. I was
Mhm.
not prepared for the bullshit of
Yeah.
one day my son just wakes up and sits down to breakfast in the same chair he always sits down in, which is across the table from his sister in the same chair she always sits in, and starts screaming bloody murder every time she looks at him.
Right.
She's looking at me, and I'm just like, what do I do with this? I obviously share this in the group chat that my solution was I gave my daughter a pair of sunglasses, right? And you get creative, you always like, I think that bleeds into this expectation that like as a dad, you're always going to have the answers, right? I always felt
Mhm.
like my dad had the answers. My dad would,
Mhm.
like my dad would tell me all sorts of things. And I remember things that he taught me. Lots of obviously, but like just a lot of little like off the wall kind of things that he taught
Yeah.
me. And I do pass those on, but that didn't mean he had the answer for every situation. That didn't mean my mom had the answer for every situation, especially, as an only child, like they were both kind of figuring it out with me. There was no, like my son, his sister was the trial run,
Sure.
right? We learn and adapt as you did
Mhm.
with your oldest, as was
Yeah.
done to you for your younger
Mhm.
brother. But like, they're figuring
Yeah.
it out. And I just sort of realize in moments like that I'm like, I'm just problem solving on the fly. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't have most of the answers that the kids want. But I think that has on the flip side of like the good thing is that the other expectation was like, okay, I have to be this stoic. Doesn't mean I can't be silly, but like I have to be this rock. Right? I
Mhm.
think you get a lot from media, social media, traditional media, you name it, of just like dads have to be the rock of the family, like the
Right.
guy you can rely on. Now, that doesn't mean the reality is I've become a flake, but I've realized slowly but surely with both of my kids that it's okay to show levels of vulnerability. It's okay to show
Yeah.
levels of emotion. It's okay to explain to my daughter why I'm frustrated. Like, hey, it's okay for
Mhm.
me to admit the same kind of things that your daughter was admitting to you, for me to admit that to my kids. Like, hey, I had a tough day at work.
Mhm.
I am probably more like, I am letting you know that I am more frustrated with what you're doing than I probably should be. But I'm also
Yeah.
letting you know that because I had a tough day, I cannot guarantee you the patience that you deserve. So
Yep.
please understand that I am asking for you to contribute more in this communication stream of like doing something the first time I ask right now,
Mhm.
better than you normally do it because I need that, right? And that wasn't always the kind of that wasn't the kind of conversation my parents had with me, and I don't think it was shortcomings. I think that's like just generational growth.
Yeah. And I actually said that to my daughter yesterday and today, right after I yelled at her after the seasoning spilled. She came back in and I was just like, hey, I yelled because I messed up, but it was, and I was like, and I'm not actually mad at you about what happened. I just need you to be a better listener today because I'm on edge and I'm having a bad day and I need help. And, she was like, okay, fine. And I gave her a hug and a kiss. And then, tonight during our little powwow, I said, I know I've had a lot of big feelings this week. And I know the week's not over. I'm going to try to be better tomorrow, but I'm sorry. And I love you. And it's one of those things where, it's funny. I don't know. I'm pretty sure your dad was a I love you saying dad, but we have friends who I remember telling me their dad, I love you was not something their dad said. My dad always did, which was nice. And I feel like there was a split in that generation of I love you saying dads. But I'm at the point where my daughter, I'll be like, why do you always say that to me? It's because that's if you only remember one thing for the rest of your life, I just want you to remember that I love you. That's
right. I have a way that I do it with. I have a way that I do it with both of my kids, and I just go, hey, can I tell you a secret?
Yeah, I do the exact
same. They'll be like, what? And they'll be like, I love you. And they'll be like, I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah.
Dad. And I'm like, good. And so this turned into when my daughter was at Girl Scout camp a couple weeks ago, we had this opportunity to write letters to them to, help ease the homesickness thing. And I wrote her an entirely silly letter. Like I was addressing a princess, like I was writing some letter in Game of Thrones. Right. And, I was like, dearest princess daughter. Right. And all these things. And, the young prince has demanded that he get candy for breakfast and has enlisted all of your stuffies into the army and all this silly stuff. But then P.S. I was like, I have to tell you a secret. You already know what it is. Right. And so it turns into that kind of little thing. And they're just like, why you always do that? And I say some variation of the same thing because it's true, because no matter what, I don't want you to forget that. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what I say, this is true. So that's always been super important to me.
I do sometimes throw in the caveat, except maybe premeditated murder. Yeah. Just level setting expectations, so.
Yeah, I don't have that caveat. I'm better than you. My love is unconditional. I will still love them and care about them and be disappointed in them. Those emotions and feelings can all exist together, roughly, but they can. And I think, I had this expectation, and I think this comes from a lot of places, but I had this expectation that having kids automatically meant that your relationship with your spouse took a back seat, right? And I think it's bred into this idea, right, of people always say, choosing kids over the spouse, right, in media and movies or whatever, that it's they'll do anything for their kids, right? At the expense of their spouse because the kids come first. And I think that was always my expectation. My wife and I made a conscious decision that would, not be us, that we would always choose each other because the end result is choosing each other as a team means together we're a better parental unit for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I will say it in front of my kids, not like unprovoked, but they'll go like, they'll ask the questions, because kids, it's always got to be a competition. Like, who do you love the most?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And my answer to each one of them is, I love you both differently. But they're like, well, who do you love the most out of all of us? So I was like, your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be like, why? And I explained to them very clearly, this is getting into the explaining. I was like, I had no choice who my parents are. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I made a choice to have kids, but I didn't have any like say in the human beings that came out.
Sure.
The only family in my life that I got to choose and say, I want to spend more of my life being with you than with any other human, because I will move out of my parents' house and you will move out of my house. But for most of my life, I will be with this one person, and I get to choose that relationship, and I chose her. And that is what makes it different. And that doesn't mean that the other relationships are bad, because there is a lot of value and strength in those relationships, in having that, like, we didn't get to choose to be together, and we're going to make the most out of these relationships. But there's a different value that my wife and I have both placed above, of like, we have chosen this one person to go through this together, through thick and thin. And so that is our person. Right. And so I tell my kids, and they're like, I get that. And part of what I'm doing is like reminding myself, reminding my wife, and her reminding me, and because she says the same things, but reminding ourselves of that choice that we made to each other. But I also think part of what I'm trying to do is show my kids what healthy relationships are, because there's a lot of data out there, a lot of psychology out there, that kids are learning what relationships are like from what they see from parents.
Sure.
My son is going to learn how to treat women as a baseline from what I'm modeling. My daughter's going to learn how a woman should be treated from that same baseline. And so that matters a lot to me. And so that was one of those expectations that I think, when I thought of myself, asked me in my early 20s, what's it going to be like in 10 years when you have kids? I'll be like, oh, the kids got to come first.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's definitely going to put a strain on the relationship, all that stuff.
I mean, I feel like, not to say that it's different. My wife and I always do communicate the unified. I'm always on mommy's team. She's like, I'm always on daddy's team, like with this stuff. But it definitely, I guess the different, not even just the difference. It's just like, I honestly lost my train of thought. I'm ending this sentence. Point is, it's like I don't know if it's like a choose over. It's just like, we committed to being on the same team. And sometimes that puts us in a position we don't want to be in, because not that like we agree with the kid over the other, but it's just like, this didn't bother me, but it bothered her. So I have to like be on that side. And then the other way around, where it's like, I might actually think the kid is right, and she might actually think the kid is right. And, the other day, my daughter and I, who have the older one, she and I have the same personality. So we butted some heads, and my wife actually sent me to the room instead of her. And I got really mad, because not that it's like a zero-sum game, but when she's in an argument with a kid at school, whoever the teacher disciplines first usually loses in their mind. So I was mad, because I felt like she's just going to view it as, well, mommy sent daddy away because daddy has the emotional maturity to exit from the situation and calm down when I cannot. But really, it's just, oh, daddy was wrong because mommy sent daddy away. And that like really made me mad. turns out that my daughter was still crying a few, like 20 minutes later, because she felt like she messed up and that I was put away because my feelings were hurt. And I was actually completely wrong in how my daughter would take it.
Yeah.
Where I guaranteed to my wife in like anger, I was like, I guarantee you just like screwed me in my authority position and like all this stuff. And it turns out she was right, which is like really effing annoying. So like everything about that night, like, she was correct about, which is just like frustrating because not only was I disciplined, I was also proven wrong. And like, oh my God, everything about that was terrible. But point is,
like
you know, anyway.
my wife and I have that happen sometimes, right?
Yeah.
One thing I didn't want to convey in our united front thing is that we always agree with each other or present a perfectly united front, because I think we're both smart, somewhat reasonable human beings.
Somewhat, yeah.
And it's okay to disagree, but I think it's the how, right?
Mhm.
Not the yelling and the screaming like our kids do, but it's
Mhm.
also the, when there's a situation where we use different language with each other than we would use to our kids, right?
Right.
If our kids are emotionally dysregulated and are not holding themselves as we believe they should be held at the dinner table or with each
Right.
other, we might send them to their room and say, you need to go to your room for 7 minutes for my daughter, 4 minutes for my son. It relates to their age. It's how many minutes
Sure.
they get. And we, there was definitely a couple of days right before my son's 4th birthday. He was having a time and we were like, dude, get it out of your system because it's about to get worse. You're about to get another minute out of this week. But the point being, when we see those situations with ourselves, we'll say something where I might go up to my wife and say, hey, why don't I take over here? You take a few minutes for yourself. Right. And she'll say the same thing to me. And it's really that like mental click of just like, it breaks you out of, if you're the one that's having that said to you, it breaks you out of what might be like entrenched warfare with a stubborn kid, and you're dragging yourself into the muck, and you just need to be rescued from that. And you need somebody to go, yeah, I'm not approaching this right. Let me step away, and then I can come back a few minutes later.
Right.
And sometimes it's just the thing of like, you had a tough day at work today, for example.
Yeah.
And maybe your wife didn't. And maybe it's like, I got the bandwidth. I got the band, like the starter doesn't have it tonight. We're going to the bullpen in the 4th inning.
Right.
Right.
And
that kind of thing.
Unfortunately, I wish I had the foresight to ask for that up front. To just be like, you think I would, but it's like, just to be like, hey, today was a shitty day at work. Like, if the kids fucking suck today, can like you just handle it? Because I just don't have it. And like maybe that's for me what I need to work on.
And I think there are some ways that you can build that in. I'm not preaching from a ton of experience here, but there are, like, my wife and I have started that, right? Where she will just, and the flip side of that is, unlike you guys, we both work at the same address.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So like, each other during the day. Having a bad day. Yeah.
Right. I mean, she's out in a different building, so I have no idea what's going on, and she doesn't know what's going on with me unless she's walking in to get snacks and hears me in several passionate conversations over the course of my day. But like, we can, even sometimes it's just fine. Most of the time it's just via text, honestly, where, we're texting each other and just saying, yeah, like, this is a rough one. Like, hey, or she'll come to me and just be like, hey, can you, I know I'm on tap for bedtime tonight, but can you handle it? Like, I need to take a bath, or I need to do this or whatever because of physical or emotional frustrations. And
Sure.
and so I think those definitely tend to work out better, but it's like having the foresight of like, even on your commute home of just sort of having
Mhm.
that, maybe something as simple as like I'm stepping on the metro, check in with myself. How would I
Mhm.
feel if my daughter started complaining about dinner, right?
Yeah.
Like something common that's gonna annoy you, and then be like, "Could I be my best self right now?" And the toughest part of that though is when you've had a bad day and you're physically drained or emotionally drained or mentally drained or all three, you're probably guessing wrong. Like,
Yeah.
you're not
Yeah.
clear-headed, you're not as clear-headed. So it's tough, but it's better
Yeah.
than nothing. If you catch it 10% of the time, that's better. 10% improvement on most things is pretty good. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest one of the you mentioned just like the metro and the ride home and like pre-kid, a metro ride, no matter how long, no matter how short, that was always enough for me to um, you know, adjust. And I know we talked about that in another episode. You've got like literally the physical curtain. Me, it's the commute on the metro. But like sometimes, I get off the metro, I walk home, and the chaos at home is just as bad, if not worse, as what it
right.
was during the day. And it's it's tough. And again, circling back to my whole thing was just like I think I wrongfully thought I was not emotional. So emotional maturity is not what I'm going with, but just like emotional stamina. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. To speak in dungeon crawler Carl terms, I thought I had more mana points with regards
Yeah.
to emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
but I don't. I
Yeah.
don't have enough mana. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, you know, yeah, I think really this whole thing of just, I thought that like I thought there would be a lot of some of this, right? The mental, physical strain of having kids. I'm not surprised with how busy I feel
Hmm.
quite often. Sometimes I'm a little like, man, this is dumb. This is like too
Yeah.
much. Especially with like the summer camp stuff, which I won't rehash.
Hmm. Hmm.
With the extracurriculars, which I'm like, they're not even that bad when I look at them like all laid out. But
And
I
then the
think,
non-linear development that we've discussed too.
yeah,
It's like you've been good at this for 6 months. Like, why do you suck at this now? Like, I just need like be
yeah,
linear. Yeah.
I think if I could, you know, this is sort of like a closing thought that I
Yeah.
wanted to have of like if
Sure.
I could go back to myself at 29 years old, before I had kids, maybe even 28 before I knew I was going to have kids, what would I tell myself? What piece of advice would I give? And I think one of those pieces of advice would definitely be like start practicing your patience because I didn't realize how impatient I was until
Hmm.
there were small creatures testing that every single day and how
Right.
much I realized like connecting with my own parents. I'm like, I realize now how much they were making conscious decisions for patients constantly.
Yeah.
That it was not like, oh, I had patient parents, or I had to understand it, like, they worked at that.
Yeah.
And, like, letting myself know that it's not just working at the knowing the safety hazards and knowing where to put safety locks and how to buckle car seats and what swim
Hmm.
regulations are, all that kind of stuff. It's not just the surviving, but it's
Right.
the mental side of, like, you're gonna have to constantly work on your patience and bettering yourself, and that it's not
Hmm.
just about building better other people. It's about building the best version of yourself so that you can be, you know, the right person to be modeling behavior and not just what you talk, but what you
Right.
say. But I think the other part that I would tell myself is like, I think I was very focused on the big things, right? I was very focused on the big wins in parenting,
Mhm.
successful births, walking, first
Mhm.
words, riding a
Mhm.
bike, first day of school,
Right.
and preparing myself. And I don't even know if it would have mattered, but how much the little wins like matter and how
Yeah.
much I cannot tell my 29 years old self and make them believe it, because I still
Yeah.
sometimes don't believe it, of how much joy I get from their joy. I get joy from my wife's joy and my other family members' joy. I like to see them happy,
Sure.
but not on the level that it brings me joy when my kids are truly happy.
Yeah.
When something has happened that is good for them, how much pride and joy I feel, depending whether or not it's something I got them or something I did for them or something somebody else, like I would not have believed you if you would say, "Hey, Alex, your daughter has been doing dance classes for 3.5 years. She's had about a dozen recitals to this point, and you have shed tears at every single one." Like, I would not have believed that statement.
Right.
And yet here we are. And every time I walk in there knowing that it's happened the last time, and she gets up on stage, and I'm like, I'm just so proud of my baby.
Yeah. 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 There, and I think what sucks is that when I come home on a bad day, I'm not as emotionally outgoing as I want to be in those moments. I I mean, I feel it for sure. Like when my daughter tells me about her day and she's like super excited, I really want to hear it. But sometimes I'm just like, I need like I hate telling her I need 2 minutes. But like it's like I'm like right on the cusp of like finishing dinner and it's like just can you hold that thought for 2 minutes? And I need to say that. I'm gonna keep saying that because like I don't want dinner to burn, obviously, because then she won't eat it and then we'll have a different fight. But it's like
Yeah,
I hate not fully being in the moment
sure.
when to have that emotional release in those moments. And um like I'm gonna do this is like kind of like a not even like a humble brag. I don't even know what to call what I'm about to say, but it's like my daughter next week is gonna try out for, and again, she's almost 7, the competitive gymnastics team. And
Yeah.
like she is so effing excited. And I'm so happy for her. At the same time, I'm just like, it's literally the last extra thing I want in my life right now is like to work in gymnastics meets into my already
Yeah.
annoying ass schedule.
And
But
and not
she's
to
so
mention,
happy.
she's so happy.
Like,
And like obviously I don't know, what the tryouts are
yeah.
like or what her specific odds are. From what you told me, she's pretty gifted at this thing. But then it's like I have in those situations, you know, like especially like when my daughter tries out for
Mhm.
dance parts. And usually what
Mhm.
happens is they have some, like, oh, she's going to be a junior sugar plum fairy this year. And like
Right.
it's kind of a made up part, but they put everybody her age into
Right.
that part or whatever. But the potential for the disappointment, right?
Mhm.
And I think your daughter's thing is the first thing that any of our kids have really done that like is going to be like that. But then I imagine, like if my daughter keeps going with dance, there will
Right.
be an opportunity as she, probably as she's like entering fourth grade or fifth grade. She's about to go into second, so it's not that far off of
Right.
like trying out for the company,
Mhm.
right? To be a member of junior company. And
Right.
that is when it does not become just, have you put in your hours? It's a
Right.
talent-based thing, because there are some, like, I look at the programs and I know some of these kids because they go to my daughter's school, and I'm like, okay, these two are best friends
Mm-hmm.
in the same grade, and this one's up here and this one's
Right.
down here. Right.
Yeah.
And like those kind of things, or my son, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, trying to do tryouts for coach pitch to graduate
Mhm.
from T-ball or things like that. I'm just like, I want to like shield them and protect them
Right.
and like say like, it almost makes me turn into like wanting to be a Karen, but I don't want to be that person of
Mhm.
like,
Sure.
please don't hurt my baby.
Right.
And I'm like, and I think that's sort of the next frontier of like, as our kids get older and they get more out from under our wing, of like, they are going to have moments that they fail that there's nothing
Mhm.
we can do about, right? This isn't like trying to walk or trying to learn how to scramble eggs
Right.
or trying to do something around the house to help out. It's not these low stakes things. They're going to matter a lot, and they're not always going to succeed, and it's going to be tough. And like, how are you there for them in
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
moments? I'm just, whew, you
Yeah.
know?
It's funny because so my daughter's technically having 2 tryouts. The first one was yesterday. The first one was for the non-competitive team, where essentially they're going to do everything that the team does, except the competitions are more like recitals, which she does in ballet anyway, where it's like you're going to perform all your gymnastics moves for your parents. Whereas next week, it's the one where it's like you're competing against other kids and you will be
Yeah.
judged against other kids. And
Right.
mommy and daddy are still going to cheer you on, but someone else's mommy and daddy might be a little more excited than like yours are, right? And like, not that I want to
Yeah.
be that kind of parent who cares whether my kid wins or loses, but I'm also competitive, right? Like, and like, I'm gonna want her to succeed because she
Right.
wants to succeed. So I'm confident that at a bare minimum, she has made the non-competitive team, but like, we'll see what happens next week.
Yeah. And I mean, and those are the same things that like when
Yeah.
I talk to, when I talk about those milestones for my kid, I didn't
Right.
even think about that, but that's the facts that my daughter makes it to company, or my son either graduates because of age or tries out early for coach pitch. That's when they start counting the stuff. That's
Yeah.
when there is competitions, the dance
Mhm.
competitions, and then obviously baseball for playing time. I
Mhm.
think in coach
Yeah.
pitch, it's still going to be pretty low key competitions for playing time, but then they're going to actually start keeping score. They don't keep score in T-ball. They play
Right.
3 innings and everybody bats every inning, and there's no such thing as an
Right.
out, partly because nobody can get it. But even if they throw the ball
Right.
base
Sure.
on time, kid still stands there on first base. They don't know what it's like to get out. And like the T-ball
Right.
coaches always make a joke. Every time they'd round up the dugout, be like, all right, guys, another game. No strikeouts. Way to go.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Exactly.
And
Right.
at the end of the year, they're like, first team ever, no strikeouts all year, kind of thing.
Mhm.
That kind of stuff. And it's all good natured, but I'm like, I do worry about it.
Sure.
Should we work on something? What do you want to work on?
So yeah, I'm 4 for 4 at going to the gym this week at work, which I feel good about.
Oh.
First 2 days, I ran 7 miles each day and then lifted. Yesterday, day 3, I ran 7 miles, but was too tired to lift. Today, I ketchup bottled myself again, so I only made it 5 miles. And then, just didn't have it in me to lift. And I have noticed something. So if I work out in the morning, I usually have enough energy to do everything.
Yeah.
If I work out after lunch, I worry about having a full stomach. But if I just have a late workout due to my meeting schedule, and it's before I've eaten lunch, I like don't have enough energy to do everything. So
Yeah.
this week has been frustrating in terms of just like, how do I properly um uh energize or not, but like how do I feed myself just enough to get through all of my workout, but not too much where I feel heavy. And I'm trying to figure out, like, it's a timing thing too. Anyway, I mean, I've had a weird 2 weeks where um I was like 174, then I was 186, and then today I was 179. I don't know what's going
Yeah.
on with my body right now. I think probably some of the holidays, like back to back, or not, like 2 weeks between Juneteenth and July 4th. And tomorrow, I'm planning to do the full body screening thing, which I was pretty good about doing every 8 weeks. Haven't done in a while. She actually said I could do it Monday, and I was like, you know what? We just came off the July 4th holiday. I kind of want to juice the numbers a bit, so let's do it on Friday after I got a good, So we'll see, but I don't know. I just I mean, my clothes are looking great. I'm sweating my ass off because it's summer in DC, but you know, my everything's going fine. I just need to figure out this whole, if I'm working out without lunch, but I'm not working out till 1 or later, what do I do? Is just,
Yeah.
and that's just a trial and error kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. And I've had you know, I've had a little bit of that. I think one of the things that I was really worried about with my family going away was not having the block
Mhm.
of like, it is critical to everybody's morning success that I go to the gym, right? For
Mhm.
childcare or to get it out of the way before school drop offs, or like there's no
Mhm.
chance of doing it later because dinner time, evening time,
Right.
all that stuff. And I was really worried that without all of those guardrails, that I wouldn't be able to work out, or that not I wouldn't be able to, that I would slip.
Mhm.
And the fact is, what it really came down to has been, you know, I've been pretty good about getting up and getting out, even getting to the gym earlier. Part of that
Mhm.
is like reducing the decision fatigue of meals, right?
Mhm.
Having all my meals ready to go. So I've got, 24 breakfast burritos lined up for 24 days and just like ready to rock and roll on that. I'm making cold brew coffee like I'm trying to, the night before, and like just
Mhm.
trying to make getting out the door as easy as possible. And I'm usually able to and I've been able to do that most days.
Mhm.
Um but one thing that happened this weekend, my kids were sick coming, the weekend before, week and a half ago. And they were sick on Monday. Made Monday kind of tough. They were home. They were flying out Tuesday morning, and my mom didn't want to have them because they were sick and because she was going on a trip and she didn't
Mhm.
want to turn this into a super
Sure.
spreader event. Well,
Understandable.
I feel fine on Monday. I drop everybody off at the airport. My kids have pretty much recovered by Tuesday. I feel fine. I wake up Saturday morning and I felt terrible. It like incubated in me for like
Mm.
4 or 5 days.
Mhm.
And it affected my sleep on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And so I have just been kind of like dragging and behind on like hours of sleep. And I'm trying to catch up, but I'm also not trying to do it in a way where like there were a couple of nights where like I wanted to go to bed at like 7:30 and I'm like fighting myself to stay up till like 9 so that I don't completely disrupt my circadian rhythm. And then at least once it turned into like 9 turned into like, oh crap, it's 10:30.
Mhm.
And I've tried to build some systems and I've tried to do some things to like get that right, but and I'm probably going to keep doing some more of that this weekend of like sleeping in and really trying to catch up. But that's kind of affected me. It doesn't mean I haven't worked out, but like today, I woke up, I was really tired. I needed a lot of it, and I had to set some other boundaries and guidelines. So I actually went to the gym, and I didn't go to the gym until 7 o'clock tonight. I had that freedom, right? It's not an every time thing, but I went ahead and I went to the gym and got it done. But you know, I'm feeling pretty good progress there, right? Like I have a weightlifting tracking app, and I can't remember the last time that, and I've been running the same split for a while now, but I can't remember the last time that I had a workout where I didn't hit some PR on something. It measures my 1 rep max PRs or my total volume, which is weight by reps, or just a number of reps kind of thing. And so I've hit something, and it's not always all my exercises. It's usually one thing that just happens to be stronger. And I'm like, okay, I'm feeling really good about this. Like, it's growing. The running, on the other hand, I think has been more affected by the sleep quality, right? My heart rate, because I sort of outlined what I was doing, but I'm doing like interval training, and I've been doing some of it on the treadmill lately, just because it's still like, unless I'm running at 6 a.m., it's getting pretty hot outside already. Today we had a heat index of like 110. Middle of the day, which obviously I'm not running then, but it's already like feeling like 95 when it's sitting at 79 at 7:30. So I've been running on the treadmill and doing these intervals, and like I've worked through some math where I'm trying to increase my endurance, but I'm trying to do it in a smart way where I've got an app that goes on my watch that basically monitors my heart rate and sets a heart rate ceiling for these intervals. So I go as long as I can so that I don't get it too high where I'm not actually like building a cardio base. I stay in sort of that zone 3 that'll really help build my cardio endurance. And I've just been kind of stuck and basically what happens is I have a fixed number of minutes that I'm running and then a fixed number of minutes that I'm walking. But if my heart rate gets too high during the running, I increase the walking, bleed it into the next walking, and then start over and try to go the full distance, full time the next time. And that has just been a slog. And it's been several weeks of being sort of stuck at the same plateau. And I think it's like, because I'm getting better at the weightlifting, unlike you, I don't do them on the same days, but because I'm getting better at the weightlifting, like I'm very frustrated by this plateau, right? It is not where I want to be. It's not where I projected myself to be. And I'm having to keep reminding myself of like, dude, showing up, like giving up is way worse. Like even if your next run is worse than your last run and is worse than your last run, eventually it will turn itself around, as long as you're not injuring yourself, beating yourself into the ground, like causing yourself more harm than good here. You're doing something good for your body, and eventually your body will adapt and get better. And like, but it is a mental struggle right now because I'm logging a lot of this stuff in Claude to like talk to it about, expectations and different things like that. And, I'm just, it had sort of helped me forecast, okay, you could increase intervals like this every couple of weeks. And then, by the end of 14 weeks, you'll be at your goal of running a 5K continuously. And I'm like talking to it tonight. I'm like, it's been 8 weeks and I'm nowhere fucking close. What the hell? And it's like, keep going, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but I just wanted something else to say. I wanted something else to say. It didn't just say keep going, but it's all the things I would tell you or somebody else that came to me with the exact words that I did, of like, you're showing up, you're not giving up, you keep going, and eventually you'll get the results. It's the Nick Saban method. It's all in the preparation, it's all in the practice, and then the results are a byproduct of the work you put in. I mean, and I think the same is true for like your weight stuff too, right? If you're managing your calories effectively, if you're putting in the work, 1 week doesn't define it. It's about the habits. It's about all those things.
And I just I think, and I've always this is weird. I know it's wrong, but it feels right to put at our age, for me, to put the premium and the priority on the cardio. Like, and I actually know, like, I know that weightlifting is like honestly like a better bang for your buck. But it's like when I am like, when it looks like I came out of the pool when I'm done on doing the treadmill for 7 miles, like it feels like I've done better than like if I only lifted.
Yeah.
You know, like I know there's no science backing that, and it's like a really a vibe thing. But just like I don't know. I just and I know that there's like pros and cons to cardio before lifting. And like sometimes you're supposed to do it the other way, but it's just like
it's all relative, right? Like
yeah,
I think like you are, yes, most people will say that you should lift before you run because like the lifting isn't going to tax your cardio. It's not going to tax your like it'll tax your central nervous system, but like it won't, basically weightlifting won't affect your running performance as much as running will affect your lifting performance. And that's really, I think, the most of the argument. But the fact, what I also try to remind myself,
mm-hmm.
and I think this is probably helpful for you too, is like these are all optimizations on
Right.
the biggest thing. Like I watch on social media, like these big guys, and they talk about the optimal weightlifting this and the optimal that and the optimal this, and this is how I'm like, at the end of the day, 80% of it, right? I'm ballparking here. This is not scientific numbers, but 80% of it is showing the heck up.
Yeah.
Day in and day out, and over years, building the strength, the cardio, the distance, whatever you're trying to build over years. And if you show up day in and day out, even if you run first and lift second, you get stronger, you get faster, you get whatever version of better you're trying to get. Doesn't really matter if you're doing it in the most optimal way.
Right. Right. And
Nearly as
one
much
other right.
as
And it's
doing
like
it.
right. And obviously like the weight matters to me. But clearly, like as I demonstrated tonight, like my weight's fluctuating in a weird way. Not quite
Yeah.
sure what that is. It might be water, it might be salt, it could be actual weight. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But I was trying to think of what can I actually do that I have a little bit more control over. Not that I don't have control over my weight, but something I have actual control over is it's like I'm very close. So last year I increased my steps per day by about 5,000. My goal is to increase another 1,000. And I'm almost there, like through the first 6 months. So it's like I know I will be in a really good place physically if by the end of the year I've done 1,000 more steps a day on average than the previous year. And then we'll see what 2027 has to hold. But for 2026, like I've just been thinking about it, and it's like I still want to hit 170. Clearly, I'm further than I want to be. But like if I'm averaging over 15,000 steps a day over the 14,067 I averaged in 2025, like that's pretty good. Yeah.
It all adds up. And at the it's like I have weight goals, I have physique goals, aesthetic goals.
Sure.
But I do try to remind myself that like eating towards those goals, moving towards those goals, like working out towards those goals is still good, right? It's like the thing of like, I want to be able to, like, it's more important that I'm able to play with my kids
Right.
than just be shredded or something.
Right.
It's important that I'm, feel physically capable in my body for as long as possible.
Right.
More than like I fit into a certain clothing size or something. And I do try to remind myself, but and it's a little bit of like life gets in the way, because I think social media can distort things for a lot of people when they see, like literally professional bodybuilders giving them advice on lifting technique and dieting technique. And it's like, well, this is what worked for these guys. And it's just discipline. Like, it's discipline and sacrifice. Like, you see videos of these guys that they've meal prepped some chicken and rice and broccoli, and they take that out to Texas Roadhouse while the rest of their friends and family eat Texas Roadhouse or something, right? Like, they have made choices to make sacrifices that I am never going to be willing to make. And I've accepted that, I'm never going to have a Mr. Olympia physique. I'm not really trying to, but it's just like, there's levels to the work. And I'm like, I want my first level to be like, I'm not gaining weight. And my second level to be like, I'm at a maintainable consistency. And that it's like, if I lose, if I lose 1 pound of fat, no matter how much muscle I gain in 3 months, that's better than gaining a pound, right?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of that long view. I don't know.
No, makes sense.
I just don't want to like lose it all by tomorrow and just be done.
Yeah, be cool. I'd like snap my fingers and make everything
Magic
perfect.
wand.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for working on the Dad Pod. Yeah. Alex and I are a little, well, mostly me, unsure about next week. My father will be in town. Maybe we'll get our crud together. I'm pulling a switcheroo. My wife's leaving town Thursday to Monday. My dad's coming into town Thursday to Monday. So yeah. And then, yeah. Dad, wife. And then
don't like that.
Don't like it at all. Regret saying it, just trying to move past it. And then this is all administrative, but I've got a vacation coming up. But Alex and I will work.
We might see you next week. We might not.
Yeah. So
have a good one.
There we go. All right. Give me a minute to hit the button. And why is it all the way over here?